Hello, this is Dread, and in today's video topic, we're going to be tiptoeing around a very controversial topic right now in the Last Epoch community, and that is, do you need a guide to play Last Epoch? Now, I'm going to say no, first things off, so you can click off the video if that's what you wanted, but I'm going to give some reasoning behind that, and also talk about the fallacies that come when discussing this topic. So if you don't know, yesterday I made a 10 out of 10 Harbinger guide, and it was criticized in a few different ways. The main criticism was I started the video talking about the kinds of builds that you should be aiming towards if you want to have a very comfortable experience farming your 10 out of 10 Harbingers. It wasn't a guide on how to have fun in Last Epoch. It wasn't a guide on how to play, off meta builds to do 10 out of 10 Harbingers. It was a video specifically talking about what do I need to do to make this 10 out of 10 Harbinger run as smooth as possible. So I talked about, hey, unfortunately, because of the way that the game is set up right now by EHG, you are exponentially incentivized to play a strong build. You are incentivized to play a build that kills things faster, does things faster with no gear, i.e. play something very strong, i.e. more of the meta variety. If you want to do your Harbinger run very fast and very smooth, you are incentivized to play something strong. Now, obviously, to the astute of you, you kind of just believe that anyways. It was like obvious, but Last Epoch kind of forces it a little bit more with a certain different amount of systems. I won't go into the deep of it, but right now, as it currently stands, rarity on your mono makes it so you get more aggressive envy and stuff like that, which means you push faster, which means you get more corruption, which means you get more stability and also more favor, which means you get more gear, which means you gear your character faster. So the better your character is, the faster you'll get geared, and the faster you'll get geared, the faster you'll push corruption, which is important. Cool. Now that we're all on the same page, that is how it works. Now, a lot of people didn't like that I was like being like, oh, you need to play a good build. And I'm like, well, what did you want me to say, right? Did you want me to be like, oh, you could play like anything and have a good time? You can do that, but you're not going to have a good time. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to be like, oh, if you play Cinder Strike Blade Dancer, you're going to have a great time. I'm not going to tell you that. I'm not stupid. I don't want to lie to you, right? But this brought up this whole topic about like guides in general in gaming and about what they're meant for. So if you're clicking on a video that says a 10 out of 10 Harbinger guide, right? It's not meant to be entertaining. It's not meant to show you like, hey, how do I have fun in Last Epoch? Can I play off meta builds? It's meant to show you the smoothest possible way to get to your 10 out of 10 Harbinger runs. And part of that is build discussion. Because if you're playing a better build, turns out fighting the Harbingers is significantly easier, right? When I played my Bleed Hail of Arrows marksman, I had a significantly better time in the Monolith of Fate doing my run than like, let's say I played like Tempest Strike Shaman. I would not want to wish Tempest Strike Shaman among my worst enemies, right? But Bleed Hail of Arrows marksman was super smooth the entire way through, and it made it exponentially easier to do so. So it behooves me when I'm writing a quote unquote guide to provide content that is like good, that is quality content. Hey, I'm making a guide. It's going to include ways to make the game like easier on you, i.e. play strong stuff. And if you don't like that, well, why are you clicking on a guide? We're like, oh, casual players, like, they don't need to be told that they should play meta. And I'm like, are you a casual if you're clicking on a video about 10 out of 10 Harbinger? Like, do you even know what the word casual means? If you're watching a video on YouTube, if you're watching this video, by the way, you are not what I would deem a casual is. A casual is like someone who plays maybe 3 to 4 hours a night and doesn't watch YouTube. The fact that you're even watching this YouTube video right now about a meta discussion about whether or not you should have a guide in Last Epoch, you are in maybe the upper 50% of people who play the game in terms of skill and knowledge. Okay. The fact you're even watching me proves to me that you are not a casual. Now, you have to come to grips with that. It's like, well, I've been playing all these years and I still suck. I'm like, well, that's just how it is, man. It's just how it is. Like you have to come to grips with that. That's not really my job. But why I'm even bringing this up is because there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of posts about like, do I need a build guide to play Last Epoch? Because, people come from Path of Exile and Path of Exile is a little harder. Now, need is such a dumb word. Okay. I think the problem is the need. So a guide is meant to give you knowledge. Okay. So a good example is when I make a build guide on a build, I'm giving you the knowledge of the last maybe week or so of work that I've put into the character, right? So the guide is meant to catch you up with the build, get you knowledgeable about the build so that you know what kind of choices you should be making to make the character as smooth as possible. That is the whole point of the quote unquote guide, right? So that is the point of it, is to make it smoother and to catch you up in terms of time. The guide isn't meant to hold your hand. It's not meant to show you exactly what you're supposed to do. It's just simply supposed to get you familiar with the build and the character so that you can get to the point in the end game where you can play the character and have fun. Okay? It's meant to skip that initial grind that you experience when you're not knowledgeable about the game. And that's the most important part, knowledge. Okay? Like a good example here is like the 10 and 10 Harbinger guide. It's like, well, I don't want to watch it because it doesn't align with how I want to play the game. Okay. Well, if you want to learn how to do the 10 and 10 Harbingers without watching the hour guide that I posted on my channel, you can go spend 6 months doing 10 and 10 Harbinger runs to learn it. If you want to go do that, you can. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of time investment. But that's what you have to do to make up for the amount of time that it took for me to figure out all of these things that I'm talking about in the video, right? That's the whole point of the video, is to save you time, right? That's the whole point of guides in general. A good example is when I started playing Last Epoch, there were no guides. They didn't exist. The only person that was making any sort of content on YouTube was Lone Star McFluffin, and that's it. A friend of mine, Lone Star McFluffin. That's it. That's the only person that made any amount of YouTube content that was like any at all like consumable in a way that actually made sense, right? So there was a large amount of gaps. Like, oh, I want to play Flame Reef Spellblade. Well, there's no videos on it. That sucks because, if you want to like learn how to do things without spending copious amounts of time, and I'm so sick. I am sick and tired of people treating like as if people have infinite time. It comes from everybody, every walk of life. It's like, oh, why don't you spend this amount of time doing this and all that? You don't have that much time. The average Joe who's like working 9 to 5 does not have time to learn that the Harbinger of Tyranny double hits you, right? He doesn't need that. He doesn't need to do that. That's what a guide is for, is to catch Mr. Timmy, who's playing Last Epoch, up to the rest of us so that he can have a good time. Because guess what? There are learning curves in the video game. They exist, right? That is what a guide is meant for, is to catch someone up. And the reason why I made all this content in the first place is to give people that content to catch themselves up. Instead of having to spend 6 months fighting Harbingers to get better at them, you can just watch a crash course of a video to get better at it. So it would behoove me if I put proper information in the video, even if it means at the cost of telling people like, hey, rip off the Band-Aid. Yeah, if you play Cinder Strike Blade Dancer, you're gonna have a terrible time. You're gonna have a terrible time. If you play like a minion build, it's gonna take longer, okay? If you play a build without movement speed, you're gonna take a very long time to get to your 10 out of 10 Harbingers. It's my job to be honest. Whether or not it's like brutally honest or not, I have to be honest because I want my stuff to be quality. I don't want it to be filled with like, useless platitudes. I don't want to make content that is like the kitty gloves, if that makes sense. I want to make content that, people want to enjoy and watch, not content that people consume because they're too afraid to make decisions on their own. Okay. So that's what I'm getting at, is a guide is meant to save people time. It is not meant to give people an out on certain things. Okay. It's meant to help them. Okay. Like the idea is, if you're watching a build guide by me, I don't want you to play the exact same build I played. I played Bleed Hail of Arrows, but this applies to like almost any bleed build. You'll look at my gear, you look at how I set it up. This applies to any bleed marksman, right? For the most part, you can learn the broad strokes of how people play bleed marksman by looking at how I played and geared my character. You don't have to play Bleed Hail of Arrows. It just gives you an idea of like, hey, I want to play Bleed Heartseeker. What's Dread doing? Okay. You don't have to play the build to get knowledge out of the video, right? And that's the point of a guide, is it's meant to save you time and give you all of that time in a timely manner, instead of you having to wade in the dark and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with someone consuming a guide to get them up to speed, right? A good example here is my wife has been playing Dragon Age Origins, okay? Because I told her to go play it because she likes Baldur's Gate, and I was like, you should play Dragon Age Origins, okay? Every so often, she'll get stuck on a puzzle or a quest, and she will go out of her way to go find a guide to figure out, like, hey, what's going on here? And she's doing it not because she doesn't want to, actually entertain herself with the game. She's doing it because it would have taken hours for her to figure out that, hey, the lever in this little portion of the video game, right? It would have taken forever to figure out that, hey, this lever works for this thing, right? Yada, yada, yada. And that's just mindless busy work. My wife works a 9-to-5 job. She doesn't have all the time in the world. So searching up a guide to be able to understand what's going on in the stupid video game isn't her making the game or making the guide play the game for her. She's trying to skip something that would have taken her hours and hours and hours and hours on end that she just didn't want to interact with because she is a working woman. She does not have time to only just play video games all day, right? That's what guides are meant for, is to save you time. And that's the whole point of the channel, is to save you time. So I'm not going to be like, hey, you should play this in this build instead of this in this build. I'm going to give you a guideline of the idea of what you should do for the Harbinger run, but I'm not going to be like, oh, you should play this meta nonsense, you play that meta nonsense. I'm saying that if you're playing Spark Charge Spellblade, you probably want to put movement speed on your gear because it will speed up your 10/10 Harbinger run. You probably want to put damage on your gear because it will kill bosses and kill trash faster. I'm not saying you should play Falconer. I'm saying that you should have these in your mind when you try to figure out how you're going to play your own build. And these are the qualities that people are looking for to make these runs as smooth as possible. So that's pretty much my opinion on that. Do you need a guide to play Last Epoch? No, but consuming guides will help you catch up to everyone else who's been playing the game the whole entire time, like me, while you've been going and living your life like you're supposed to. With all that being said, this has been Dread, off to go do something else.